live on the set. Cast the Crowns Inc. Here for a quick check-in. Want to say a few things regarding what's making noise, what's going on in the public space, what's hot off the presses, what's going on in the media, what's going on in the talk, what's going on in the celebrity talk as it pertains to families. That's what we got to care about. Why we care about family so much? Because we all come from one. Everybody comes from a family. Even if somehow, some way, you grew up disconnected from your actual family, you were either taken in by another family, like for example, adopted, like for example, foster care, or even if by chance you were in some form of agency or some form of setup where it's professionals who dealt with you. And that's who it is who gave you your sustenance in life in your youth. These were professionals. So they weren't people who are related to you, but it was people who it's their job to see to it that they care for you, whether it's religiously, and that was the reason for it, or it was just some form of system that was set up in place so that members of society, including newborns, children, actually have a place that they could go to where people care for them. So we all come from a family. So why wouldn't you advocate for families? Why wouldn't you want to see the strengthening of that family bond, which has been broken over a course of time for a variety of reasons? So why wouldn't you advocate for people actually getting back to the natural root regarding family and taking care of the essence of family? So that's what we're all about. Excuse me. So, with that being said and done, there's a couple of things that's going on in the public space nowadays where families have been impacted. One of those things is Jay-Z and Beyonce, because those are two mega celebrities and two individuals that are actually married. They actually have a family, they have children, and they have successful careers independently and collectively. And recently, as we were approaching today's date, which is now December 18th, shout out to everybody on the West Coast who may be up because it may not be that late for you guys as it is for those on the East Coast. But recently, we saw people were already projecting the ending of the marriage of Jay Z and Beyonce. So sad, right? Like there's so very few people in the public space, especially those who look like Jay-Z and Beyonce. There's so very little people in the public space who we actually know of them to be married, and they've withstood the test of time and they're still there. And it's like at any given moment, oh yeah, she got to leave him. What the hell is that? That's not how a marriage operates. A marriage doesn't operate in the confines of if something happens just like that, you gotta go. You gotta leave them. You gotta look to your career. And I really admire the way that Jay Z and Beyonce conduct themselves as a married couple. Has nothing to do with politics, has absolutely nothing to do with even music. It has to do with the persona, what they portray as far as being a married couple in a public space. I have the utmost respect for the way of how they conduct themselves. And as a man who is married and has been married for over 2 decades, from my perspective, I would actually say that Jay Z seems to enjoy being a husband. He seems to enjoy being a husband and being a father. He seems to enjoy the family life. Now, I don't know him personally. I'm not going off of anything people might have said that goes on behind the scenes because I'm only talking about what's portrayed in the public. And one thing of what it is that I see that they do, which is so admirable to me, both husband and wife in this particular situation of marriage, not current events, but in this particular situation, I see that they allow themselves to speak for themselves. They don't speak through the media concerning their marriage. They don't speak through social media concerning their marriage. They actually, even at times, have taken their artistic expression, where she, being Beyonce, the wife, the mom, is a knockout performer, and he, being one of the greatest rappers of all time, as far as artists, they've allowed their positions in life and their feelings and their ups and downs in their marriage, they've allowed those things to get the light of day through their artistic expression. So they're controlling the narrative, which I gotta respect that. That's super dope. And I see that even Beyonce, she's gonna be performing at the halftime show for once again this particular event. That is something that is going to be brand new. This football game that's going to be airing on Netflix, and she's going to be performing during halftime. She's the halftime performer. I just really respect that. I just think that's so cool to actually see a husband and wife working together with so much noise going on around them. Thank you. With so much noise going on around them, and yet they're still productive, yet they're still at it, they're still at work. I think that is so cool for the fact that they're doing that, because over the fact that, hey, they're like, we're not going to allow the outside noise to affect our household. And in their household, the way of how they attend to their household is what they do in the public. They have things that they do behind the scenes as well, but as far as their public persona, that's how they address their household. That's how they feed and sustain their household. And she's making a major move. He, of course, has something to do with that, with his business deals, as far as how it works with Rock Nation and the NFL. And they haven't missed a beat. And in a public space, they've had things that have negatively impacted their marriage because people's eyes and ears got word of it, and yet they still kept at it. They didn't allow that outside noise to lead to them breaking up, getting a divorce, stuff like that. Will they last forever? Hopefully for them. But nevertheless, up until this point, they've done things which so very few have been able to do. And that's actually maintain a household and a marriage in a public space. And you have people who make so many lousy excuses for why they can't be married because of their career, as if you actually have a busier career than those two individuals. Really? Really? If they can do it, why can't you do it? If you work from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., why is it that you can't be married and have a household? Yes, people would say, but they got help, they got outside sources, they basically have a whole team that tends to what it is that they tend to. Of course they do. Most people who are in such positions and have those luxuries usually take advantage of them because they have those resources. So that's what it is that they do. It's nothing new. However, how is it that they can still engage in the uplifting, the upbringing of their children while tending to their careers, while tending to supporting one another, and still deal with the scrutiny that just comes in life, just period, and then comes in life with being a celebrity? I have to take my hat off, figuratively speaking, to them for such things happening. I gotta respect it. So, shout outs to them for such a thing. Nothing about being flawless, nothing about they ever did right or wrong or whatever the case may be, nothing about where they stand politically, nothing even about the content of their actual music. It's about the fact that their public persona is something that is positive and represents. You're here 65%, and my wife is here 50%, and my mother in law is here 80%. You got to explain what exactly that means because all of those percentages pass 100. So I don't know what you mean, but I'm here for it. But I definitely appreciate the comment nonetheless. So the fact that I see that, I have to respect that. There's not too many people who we could say that they're like that. And I don't mean exactly like them doing what it is that they're doing, especially when it comes to men. There's a great amount of men who are highly successful and their relationships are with nothing but whores. And that's disgusting. You have such a caliber and such a status and achievement, and yet you just belittle yourself by being with someone who people are just seasonally with. When everybody knows everybody's got their season with that particular new face. And then that new face becomes the old face, and that's who you're with. That but that means that whatever it is about her is the same thing about you. That's why that's your representation. The woman who represents that man who's so successful in life is that. So that's how he really is. So his success has nothing to do with his actual relationships. It has nothing to do with how he even values relationships. He may not value them that much. Your spouse is a reflection of what you give her. I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce your first name or give him. I got to give some credence to that. They are most certainly a reflection, but reflections, the only thing you actually give a reflection is the image. So in a relationship, in part, that has to be true, but in a relationship, you're in it to do for the other person. So even if you yourself weren't the best person, they're still supposed to give you something that is good. And it's not conditional where, well, you haven't been the best, so I'm not going to give you my best. No, because the vows that you made was never about how that other person is going to be towards you. And then that activates good from you towards them. You're supposed to be good and you're supposed to be justified by God. That's why there's that better half. Yeah, that comment about the better half is nonsense. Not over you saying it though, but that comment is just absolutely nonsense about somebody being the better half. I have to completely disagree with that because in marriages, there's going to be times when one is really down and out and the other one is thriving, trying their best to hold down the whole marriage and the family. And then there's going to be another time when the other one maybe, as they would say, holding it down while the other one isn't. They're trying to get their stuff together. So it's going to go back and forth. So there's never really one is the better half and the other one. You know, you hear that a lot. Oh, here's my wife, she's my better half, or behind every strong man is a strong woman. None of those things are actually true because you can have a wife who does not support a husband whatsoever. She may have no interest in what it is that he does for the family, but she reaps the benefits of it. So he shouldn't stop because she's supporting him or not supporting him. He should continue to do what it is that he does. And even with very little support from her, he should still be in that role of what he's doing to provide for his family because over the fact that she's a member in the family. So she's not a member in the family based off of what she's going to be. She's a member in the family based off of who she is. A man who can't support his family is no man. I agree with that. I'm gonna have to say cheers to that. You have to have a presence in the family. You have to have input in the family. You need to have an influence in the family. If a man does not have that, that family structure is out of whack. A man has to know that his duty in that marriage and in that family is beyond just protection, beyond just provision. We spoke about that in the past about that whole hunter gatherer thing because now there's Kroger, so I'm not hunting. So am I no longer a man because I can go to Kroger's or I could go to Publix? Hunter gatherer, am I no longer the man because I don't have to gather? There's Amazon, there's eBay, there's Walmart, there's Target. They've gathered everything for me. I don't need to go out and amongst the bushes and look for something to gather, to collect, to bring back home. So a man is way more than just those things, but he has to have the essence in place and he has to understand that. And he has to know that if he truly is the man of who he's supposed to be, just the mere fact that his name is on that family goes to show the responsibility of what it is that he has. And he is supposed to be responsible for the imagery of that family. But in today's world, there's a lot of things. You can have children who become teenagers, they start to represent your family in a negative light. You can have a significant other, your wife. She may do things that represents your family in a negative light. Right now, in the public space, and I'm not going to go too far in their business, even though it's public, in the public space, you have another marriage, which is Remy Ma, rapper, rapper extraordinaire, talented woman from the Bronx. Papoose, rapper extraordinaire, very gifted lyricist. If I'm not mistaken, Papoose is from Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, if I'm not mistaken. They've been married for quite some time. But based off of the indiscretions of Remy Ma, you have another man, not her husband, who's speaking on the behalf of their relationship. That's disgusting. And based off the fact that she opened up the door, this man then felt comfortable enough to speak about their relationship with him being entangled in it and speak openly. So, like, that's just how disgusting society works. Like, people supposed to throw tomatoes at that man. And I'm talking about sleazy, he's not the captain. That's who I'm talking about. Also known as Easy, the block captain. I'm going to refer to him as sleazy, he's not the captain. But that guy is an absolute jackass and an absolute clown. And there's nothing that could be potentially worse than number one, you already committed adultery, you fool. You already committed an act that's against God by marrying or sleeping with a married woman repeatedly. It don't matter if she allowed it or she consented to it. Where are your standards at, dude? Like, where are your morals at? And then you parading around looking like a sleazy little hoe, talking about he knew he want to play the victim now. He even put an Apple tag. Yeah, nigga, cause of you. That's that's the reason why. So he only appears to be justified in what it is you're saying about him. But that's just how lost some of these men are. You have men who will really think that, yo, I'm saying if he was doing his business, if he was handling his business, then she wouldn't have been with me. And these men will never be in a committed relationship because these men are home wreckers. These men look to establish some form of stronghold off of something that's weak. They are decomposers. That's who these men are. These men are the ones who go after the vulnerable. So when they see there's an issue between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, that's the woman he goes after. Because if that woman is weak, she's susceptible to give in to the temptation she already has. and he's just going to use the husband and where she stands with him emotionally and her weakness, and he's going to take advantage of it. And I'm not talking about what it is that the wife is doing wrong in those type of situations, because right now I'm talking about men and disgusting, sleazy, cowardly pieces of trash like him. Sleazy ain't a captain at all. Guys like that. Guys who look for women like that. The same guys who talk about, if I was your man, I wouldn't have you out here like this and out here like that, to a woman who they see. Maybe they see a mother and she's pushing a stroller. And they're like, yo, if you was my wife, if you was my girl, I wouldn't have you out here walking the street pushing a stroller. Fool, shut up. Because you know you done paid for a lot of abortions out here. Plus, on top of that, with all of the amount of women that's out here in the world, if you really and truly was like that, you would have been with a woman already. You would have been with a woman. So when we seen you driving by, you would have had a woman in the passenger seat. But you don't, because chances are you're probably afraid of women. So you see how the actions of one could lead to so much confusion. And she opens up the door to nothing but nonsense and madness. And people who are going to now start speaking and all of this type of stuff and just disgrace the confines of a marriage. Just disgrace it. Kim Kardashian did the same thing because she had a clown like Pete Davidson who just utterly embarrassed himself. When he gets older, he's going to look back at his behavior and his conduct when he was being a homewrecker. He's going to look back at that, and I'm pretty sure he's going to feel shame. May not even be when he gets that much older. It might be when he finds a woman that he really loves and he falls in love with her and he treats her like gold, and she just turns around and spits in his face and treats him like trash, and she's with another guy who he's going to look at that other guy like he's better than that man. And then his ego is going to be completely just crushed and demolished because he knows his past and the women who he's been with, the high caliber of women. I'm good. How are you? So that's what's going to happen. So this is why I have to respect the fact that you have a married couple, you have a husband and a wife who are taking good of their family. They're making good regarding their family. They deal with the rumors, they deal with the slander, they deal with the negativity that comes their way, and they don't communicate through that. Even when they have pain that they have to go through, because in a marriage you will have pain, they capitalize off of that pain. It's like a hybrid situation. They take the exhaust and recycle it back into recharging. So there's no waste. I like that. I definitely respect that. You had a mental breakdown after your baby was born. When she showed up, I saw the world open her eyes. You had a mental breakdown. Yeah, having children could definitely change your life in every way, shape, or form. And knowing what it is that that really means, I'm not sure if you were saying it was connected, but you go through a lot of emotions. You go through a lot of ups and downs. When I realized what she was and everyone else is, you go through a lot of thoughts. If you're a woman, being the mother in the situation, sometimes you go through that change of no longer just being the wife, or it could be the girlfriend. I'm speaking primarily to the committed relationships though. But you go through a change because you're no longer just this person. And sometimes it feels like motherhood isn't added to the person of who you were as the wife. It sometimes feels like motherhood has replaced you as a wife. And because motherhood involves the child, then that additional being, while this mother loves her child unconditionally, but this additional being is a driving force, where prior to that, she was the driving force because she was an adult and she was living her life for how she wanted to live it, right? If she wanted to go to bed late, she went to bed late. If she wanted to wake up early, she woke up early. If she had responsibilities in life, she had to manage that. But when you go through actually having this child now you don't look at yourself sometimes. The mother may not look at herself through the lens of how she once did because you have this whole new life, and we don't really experience life in its fullest form until we become parents. Because even though we were born, we don't remember being 3 weeks old. Our parents don't give us like bona fide full information about when we were 6 weeks old and 6 months old. We don't remember that. And they don't talk much about that, right? You remember life. You don't. You see it and you experience it when you become a parent. That's when you get to see what it's like to be 2 days old and 14 weeks old. That's when you actually get to see it and understand what it's like. When you wake up in the middle of the night, when you have pains that you're going through, when you have all of those emotions of where it is you're going because of the change, the molecular change in the body and the hormonal change in that mother's body, she's going through all of that while she has to give unconditional love for this being that can do absolutely nothing for itself. So there's a lot that goes into motherhood. There's a lot that goes into parenthood. That's why it's absolutely insane to think that a woman is supposed to be doing that by herself. That's nonsense. Because parenthood is made up of two components, fatherhood and motherhood. And this is the reason why they're both supposed to work together. Very often you will find mothers who go through that. There's terms like postpartum uh, depression and things like that. And even fathers go through a lot of things because over the fact that they now have to deal with their other half, like we said earlier, they have to deal with their other half who's being emotionally under attack and psychologically under attack. And many people don't understand that until they actually experience it themselves. The attack that this mother can now be going through, this mother is now going through emotionally and psychologically. And she's changing the way of how she views herself. It's changing, sometimes for the worse. So while she cares about this child, she feels so bad about herself. If she had a bad childhood, a negative childhood with a lot of trauma, she may feel like she's not even good enough to be the parent of something that's so pure. So we're not supposed to be going through these things alone. We need one another. It's only a lying donkey who goes before the world and says, we don't need men and men don't need women. We don't need each other. That's only a fool says that. That's like me saying my right arm doesn't need my left arm. Then why do I have two, fool? You're right. Donkeys don't lie. They just say something that we don't understand because it makes no sense. And they're a jackass. So donkeys deserve more respect because we taking these fools and we're likening them to a donkey. I'm going off of this individual in the chat who's giving a lot of input here. You know, like when we say clown, just to interject for a moment, we would degrade a person by calling them a clown. Like that's a disparaging word. Oh, clown. I mean, I say it too. But a clown actually gets paid for what it is that they do. A clown isn't a fool. A clown is able to conduct the atmosphere and the energy in an entire arena. They're a performer. They're not like that all the time. They found a way that they can control the crowd through actual entertainment with very little. It doesn't take much financially to be a clown, but it takes so much as far as a performance, like somebody who's performing on the stage, an actor, a thespian. It takes so much to do that. I don't have a favorite clown. Uh, I don't have a favorite one, but nevertheless, we look at somebody who's acting simple or foolish, and we call them a clown, but a clown is actually smart. And how often do we see people who they have an episode in life and then we come to find out in their professional life they're a clown? And we see that that professional life got the best of them. Look how many people who have a public persona and then they try to become that character like that's their real life. We see that happen with people all the time. They take on a persona based off something that's not real. And we never hear about clowns doing that. We never hear about the person who acts as a clown, who they lost their mind. And people are like, damn, what happened to them? Well, they were a clown, you know? So, anyway, that was just a few things right there. But all in all, the way of how you conduct yourself in a marriage says a lot because that also brings a certain energy and a certain aura around you, your unit, your family structure. And those that are close to you tend to be people of a certain caliber. Those that could speak to you in your marriage tend to speak to certain things. Now, when you have a particular couple, such as a Jay-Z and Beyonce, they're going to protect a lot of what it is that they do because they're in the forefront. So that may be a little bit abnormal for most because they're so protective of what it is that they have and what it is that goes on around them. You have even celebrities that are of a certain status where if they blew their nose in some tissue, they won't even throw it out because they understand that somebody is going to take that tissue and try to sell it or try to capitalize off of them, right? Basically, they'll exploit them. So they're very protective over the things of what goes on around them and that's associated with them, which is part of being who you are in a marriage. You're supposed to do that in your marriage. So if you have to go to a particular degree of where you do things, it would be out of bounds for individuals who either are not in a marriage or who are, let's just say, in a regular marriage like me and you, to look at that and go, man, they're like this, they like that, they like this, and they like that. No, it's all relative, right? So even a husband and a wife who lives on everyday street in America, even they are particular over who it is in their household. A husband may know a guy and he's pretty cool with that guy. He has a cordial relationship with that man. But that doesn't mean that man will ever step foot in his house. Ever. Ever. And the wife may know a woman. And she may know this woman and she may converse with this woman from time to time. But that does not mean because she has a relationship with that woman that that woman is ever going to step foot in her house. She may never ever step foot in her house, ever, especially if they have children. So when you're a celebrity, when people make a living off of saying things about you, especially if it's lies, creating scandals, and doing things like that about you, you have to protect your investment. And if your investment is your marriage, plus the persona of your marriage, then you got to do what works best for you, right? And nobody really has much to say anything against that because that's how you protect your marriage. Why don't you either work on yours or get your own? If you don't think people should or shouldn't do this or that or the other in their marriage, well, get your own and work on it and find somebody who agrees with you. So, but if you open up the doors to the negativity, it'll make its way. And there's nothing more egregious than to actually have a marriage, a married couple, a husband and a wife, and then you got another fool that's speaking in the midst of that husband and wife. And it don't matter if it's a woman, because maybe the relationship is coming to an end, the marriage is coming to an end, and maybe the husband and wife who are now separated, they, which I don't agree with this, but they may have another relationship, and the other relationship of what they have may even be gathering some attention publicly because of the husband or the wife who's now dating someone else. There's nothing worse than the person of who it is that they're dating to speak about the actual marriage. That's disgusting. Why the hell would anybody want to hear from you? Bad enough you're in a relationship with these married individuals, with whoever the individual you're in the relationship with is, you are with. Bad enough you're doing that, especially if there's children. And then you want to talk about how you feel about the husband if you're the man that's now dating the wife, or how you want to talk about the wife if you're the woman who's now dating the husband. You need to shut the hell up. I don't even understand why the husband or the wife would even allow that. Even if you don't like your wife right now, who you're going through a divorce with, or whatever the case may be, why would you even be in favor of your, let's say, girlfriend speaking disparagingly about your wife? Or even if you're the girlfriend or the boyfriend, why would you even want the husband or the wife who you're in a relationship with to speak publicly about the husband or the wife, depending on who they are, seeing you're in a relationship with them? If you've truly moved on, then you've moved on. Why are you saying anything about them? See, so this is the reason why I say I disagree with that, because it's so much damn confusion, especially when you have children that's involved. Because every child is going to want their father and their mother to be together. We're not talking about extreme circumstances where something bad has happened. We're not talking about that. We're talking about everyday general principle. Children who were born to their parents want their parents to be together. That's obvious. So bad enough that they have to deal with the loss of that relationship of mom and dad. But now mom and dad want to connect themselves with another person when the presence of that other individual only represents and is going to remind the child of the pain of what it is that they're suffering, potentially at the hands of that other person. So, why would you then add fuel to the fire to then speak disparagingly against the husband if you're the boyfriend? Like Sleazy is not a block captain. Why would you do that? Or why would you speak disparagingly about the wife if you're the girlfriend in a relationship with the husband? And then what happens when the husband and wife reconcile? And then you're gone. So you said all of that stuff about this man's wife because you're in a relationship with him. You spoke so negatively about her, and then he has a change of heart. And then he leaves you. And he goes back to his wife. And they forgive one another for the wrong of what they've done. And then they look at each other and they go, well, you know what? You did that, and I didn't like that. And I did this, and you didn't like that. So now we're basically at a new baseline. But instead of being at a pure level, so to speak, when we started our relationship, now we're at a corrupted level, but we both did wrong to one another. And everybody knows. But when I look at my daughter and I look at her eyes, I see you. And I look and I see how happy she is when you and me are together. You know what? Yeah, don't call my phone no more. Then what? You're going to look like a whole fool out here because that's what you was doing. And then you're going to be the first one to turn around and cry and complain that because you can't get a successful relationship of your own, how the opposite sex is no damn good. No, you've only been a cancer and a sore in people's lives. You've only been bacteria. That's where you play in the relationship world, right? That's where you play. You fester off of the sores and the wounds. That's when you show up to decompose. That's when you show up. You're not trying to live. You're trying to see to it that these other people who had something good going for them, when that goodness becomes fractured, that's when you enter into play. And who else does that other than the devil? There's nothing respectful about you clowns. Anyway, going back to the point, it is something that is commendable to see a husband and wife who work together, especially a husband and wife who work together in the public space or who take on a shared responsibility, like those particular public figures, Jay-Z and Beyonce, and they support one another, they're there for one another, and they love one another throughout the test of time. There's very little, very few male celebrities, black male celebrities at that, who are successful, who you can think about who their wife is. And I don't mean who their wife is by name. I'm talking about the fact that they actually have a wife, number one, coming from the hip hop era and generation, where they actually have a wife, number one. And then on top of that, when the wife is successful and she's out here getting busy the same way how he's out here getting busy, and yet they're supporting one another. I gotta say, nothing but respect to that. And I appreciate that. Again, not talking about what people do politically, not talking about the content of their actual music. It's about the persona of how they portray what a married couple looks like in entertainment and how they don't say or do disparaging things against one another publicly, and how they take their talents and allow their talent to express where it is they may be, albeit temporarily, in their marriage, so they benefit off of their narrative and they benefit off of their story and they capitalize off of their pain, which is only going to lead to the further prosperity or benefiting of that household. So, with that being said, respect to everybody in the chat. I appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you with the consistency throughout the chat. I definitely appreciate you with the input. I hope things are on the up and up for you regarding what you said, your mental health. I hope things are going in the right direction and it's much better today than how it was yesterday for you. I thank everybody for watching. Go ahead, like, stay tuned for more. Cast Their Crowns Inc. The backdrop of what it is we do is we advocate for families. So, whatever it is that we speak to, somehow, some way, for the most part, we're going to look to see how that ties in to that family unit and that family bond. We discussed two marriages, one that is continuing and is successful, and one that appears to be on the verge of coming to an end. We're not getting too far in the personal business of certain individuals just out of respect for the actual marriage in itself and out of respect for the fact that people still do have a right to privacy. If you are a celebrity, it is fully understood that if something takes place and that whatever it is that has taken place now becomes public discussion, a celebrity is going to try to use their celebrity to try to get a hold over what it is that's going on, even if it's out of control. So we understand that. So we're not getting into a whole thing about whether a person is this, that, and the other, and they're this and they're that, and they never was this and they never was that. How the hell you know? We're talking about the fact of what it is that's there, whatever it is that they may be responsible for that is out there, and then how do others around these individuals, that married couple, how do they act and conduct themselves in the presence or because of that married couple? You see one married couple who people tend to admire, even though they were speaking negatively about it and wanted to see the marriage of Jay-Z and Beyonce come to an end because of an accusation over something that allegedly took place several years ago. They were saying how it's no good for Beyonce's brand. Beyonce is not just a stage name. Beyonce is a mother. Beyonce is a wife. So what are you talking about? And we seem to see her brand doing quite well. That's what I see. She's going to be performing December 25th at halftime. Seems like her brand is A-OK. And I'm going to assume she's performing December 25th at halftime of the football game airing on Netflix because of the business relationship that her husband has with the NFL. So look at that. And then look at, unfortunately, the misfortune of the other relationship, the other marriage of Remy Ma and Papoose, where one just opened up the door for a complete buffoon to start speaking disparagingly about the husband in that relationship because he has a relationship with that man's wife, as if there's not a God. So love who you are in a relationship with. Husbands, love your wives, and wives, love your husbands, and treat one another right and do right by one another and protect your investment, which is the marriage. You have to protect it. You have to protect it from yourself, first and foremost, and not allow yourself, your individuality, to destroy the new you, being the husband and wife coming together to become one. That's the new you. You can't allow who you used to be or who you're trying to hold on to destroy that new you, that marriage. And you damn sure can't allow an outsider to feel that they have a presence enough where they could speak to things concerning your marriage. That's only bacteria and germs and a virus. So, with that being said, appreciate all of you guys, especially you guys that's up late checking us out. Casted Crowns Inc. Follow for more. Like everybody in the chat. Salute to y'all. Thank you. We out of here.